Hi, everyone, and welcome to our broadcast, our first in the series of career broadcasts from the School of Graduate Studies. My name is Catherine Mabry, and I'm the Graduate Career Strategist, and very glad to be with you here today. So if you are joining us right now, you'll notice we're a few minutes late, so we've had some technical difficulties getting everything started. But we're looking forward to chatting today with Kevin Chu. Kevin is a McMaster alum who works at TD Canada, and we're going to be going through everything. We'll wait until Kevin is able to sign in with us. I think I see him now. So, Kevin,
hello.
Can you hear me over there?
How to turn down?
Okay. I'll get it. Go ahead, speak. You go ahead and speak.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Kevin. Okay, so hold on one moment while I just make some adjustments here. And okay, so you can hear everything okay?
Yeah, I can hear just fine.
Okay, great. And I know that our audio is actually just feeding through my speakers as opposed to my headphones, so hopefully that won't cause us any issues there. But we'll do our best as we're going forward, okay? Great. So thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. I was just saying for everyone else, hopefully everyone was able to follow us over from the other link. And, you know, it's a learning curve, but hopefully everyone manages to be in the right place at the right time. So this is our very first career hangout in the School of Graduate Studies. So today we'll be having good advice from you, Kevin Chu, our amazing speaker, Analyst 2, Trading Business Management at TD Securities. So for anyone who's wondering what to do with a social sciences degree, you can be like Kevin. Kevin graduated from McMaster with a master's in economics in 2012. And since then, he's worked at TD Canada Trust, TD Bank Group, and TD Securities. And he also spent a year and a half as a naval reservist. So pretty cool all around. So you can learn today about Kevin's transition from busy social sciences student, member of varsity track and field, chief economist for the MAC Global Active Trading Club, and also had a part-time job, to his role as an analyst at TD Securities. So if you are interested in submitting a question while we're live, so there's a number of ways that you can do that for those of you who are listening. If you are signed into your YouTube account, you can leave a question for us in the comment section, okay? If you are on Twitter, you can tweet your questions to @McMasterSGS, stands for School of Graduate Studies, so @McMasterSGS, and you can use the hashtag career. And we will be taking those questions as we go along. So, all right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I wanted to start off, so I was saying to you earlier that you've had a number of roles at TD in the 4+ years that you've been there. And I find this so inspiring that you've been able to do this. So I wonder, though, if you can kind of think back to your first role from when you graduated in 2012 with your master's in economics and you were making that first transition. How did you kind of get that first job after graduation?
So I'll start talking about how I got the TD Canada Trust. So, you know, coming to the master's program, I knew I wanted to work for a bank. I actually was interviewing for a co-op position in downtown Toronto. Didn't get the job and was thoroughly disappointed at the time. So I decided to join TD Canada Trust as a part-time teller. You know, it wasn't really my plan to join TD Canada Trust at the time, coming out of the master's program, but it had worked out for me very well in the last couple of years. So I was very lucky in the sense. how I got there, I literally just walked into the branch with my resume. I made an appointment with a branch manager, and I sat down with them, and I said, hey, I want to convince you that, I can be a great fit for your branch. And for those who don't know, in the banking industry, there's a very big networking culture. So, asking people for coffee, holding informational interviews is a very big thing. And you can get very valuable information and build great contacts in that way. And that's kind of how I made it into TD in the first place.
Okay, so you just networked into it.
I did, yeah.
And from a pretty kind of confident place, just walking in and seeing if you could get a meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was a little bit nervous, to be honest. And, I put on my only suit that I owned at the time, and I just walked in and made an appointment. But
wow.
I guess from the branch manager perspective, if you post a job online, you're going to get hundreds of applicants for a job. But if you have someone that's willing to take the time and come in and kind of put themselves on the spot, I think that speaks a lot in terms of initiatives, in terms of, what you're willing to do to break into the industry. I think that speaks a lot about your character as well. So.
Absolutely. And okay, so with that first role, so that was a role at the branch level, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And what kind of drew you to that role?
For me at the time, it was just a foot into the company, a foot into the door. I didn't really know what the job entailed at the time. I mean, when you go to a branch, you kind of see the teller, you kind of have an idea of, from the customer perspective, what they did. But, when I came in here, for me, it was just an entry-level job that I can get my foot in. And I learned more, I guess, in that role than I imagined. It really set me up well for the next role with TD. So what I really learned in this role is, learning the customer service aspect of things, and people realize that, when you're facing customers, you will always be facing customers in your job, either it's internal or external. And, having that mindset of providing good customer service, doesn't matter what role you're in, can really go a long way.
Okay, so that's really
Well,
that first role where you were customer service for a secure desk operator. And you've just spoken to, how important that customer service aspect is. Was that something that you were expecting when you first, looked for that first job after graduation, or was that something that you found surprising?
I guess I expected customer service to be part of the role, but it wasn't something that I was looking for specifically. I was really looking for an analyst job. I was looking for a job that was heavy in numbers, which it did have some aspect of that as a teller. But, it wasn't something that I was looking for specifically, but I didn't realize how important it could be and echo throughout the rest of my career for the last 4 years.
Wow. So it was the unexpected things that you learned that have really made the difference.
It really is. It really is. You're absolutely right, Catherine. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, that's absolutely, that's so cool. Because I mean, a lot of times we go into a job and we think that, that one thing's going to be really important when it turns out that it's a completely different skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the important part is to embrace that unexpected component of the job and just kind of run with it, and it'll really help you grow.
Awesome. So how did you take that knowledge that you gained of customer service and your experience at working as secure desk operator and use that to move into your next role as a credit analyst?
So it's funny because those two jobs didn't have too much things in common in terms of the technicality of the job. But one thing that did have in common was, so I was a credit analyst. I actually moved from a secure desk operator to a credit analyst on a private banking team. So private banking team, you're providing service to high net worth clients rather than your everyday branch client. So like I said, the customer service aspect from the teller job really helped me to get that next role because I continue to be client facing the next job. And the credit analyst part was addition to the customer service part. So yeah, I gotta say, when I was in the branch as a secure desk operator / teller, it was kind of a joint role. I try to embrace as much of that as possible, even though, like I said, it wasn't my dream job at the time coming out of grad school. But because I embraced that and I really try to be as positive as possible and try to learn as much as I could, my manager saw that and be like, hey, Kevin, I think you can do a little more with that. And I think that's what really helped me to get my next role.
Wow. So, okay, I'm curious, and I'm sure that some of our grad students are. I can see that Judy's getting ready to send me some questions there. But so were you actively hunting for roles when you were making that first transition from the entry level, or because you just mentioned that that was something where like your manager noticed and said, hey, I think you can do a bit more. What would you advise for graduate students who are kind of in that early phase of their career? What can they expect?
So I was always keeping an eye out for something, for my next move, so to speak. But I wasn't, like saying, oh, I have to get out of this role right now. And my manager happened to know someone in this credit team, and she kind of presented the opportunity to me when it came up. So, she kind of pushed me towards the role, so to speak. And obviously I was interested at the time because it was advancement from where I was sitting. In terms of, looking, sorry, what's your second question? Can you just remind me for that for a second?
Sure. So I was asking whether or not it was the type of thing where you were looking always, or whether your manager had kind of noticed and suggested that, you could do more, you could make that transition, and how you would advise graduate students at the beginning of their careers making that, kind of first foray out, and maybe the one right after it.
Oh yeah. So my manager at the time, she knew the hiring manager for that new role, so she kind of referred me. And in the same company, I think referral goes a very long way. So if you got someone pushing for you, that can speak a lot more than maybe just having a well-rounded resume, which also helps as well. Don't get me wrong. But when you have an internal reference where if one manager really trusts another manager and that manager refers someone, you kind of put your trust in that person, saying, hey, this person is really great at what they do. So if they're referring another candidate, then they will have that same level of expectation, that level of standard. So, doesn't matter what your role is. I guess my advice for students, early on in their career is, doesn't matter what your first job is. It may be your dream job, it may not be, but embrace what your first job is and try to learn as much as you can and keep a positive attitude. And people will notice that, and people will push for you.
Excellent. And I think you have struck a chord with the students, Kevin, because we have our questions coming in. So the one thing that they've asked is, when did you first begin your job search and networking, particularly to make that first transition out to get that first position? How early did you start that in your degree, or did you wait until you were graduating?
So I started right when the degree started, when my master's started. So I was in 8-month programs, and I think about 2 months or 3 months in, a lot of recruitment posts started coming out for the summer following. So my networking started relatively early in that sense, and you really have to, because a lot of people will start around that time.
Okay, and as a follow-up, I have a question coming here regarding your resume. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the resume, there's a lot of conflicting information as to what you should or shouldn't put on the resume. And one of the things that we've mentioned is that you had a lot of extracurriculars. You were, involved in varsity athletics. You were in trading club. Did you include all of that on your resume to kind of build up where you might be lacking some employment experience? And if so, kind of what's your advice? What information did you hear?
I absolutely do think that my extracurriculars may have filled, something that was lacking from minimum working experience. So, and it's important to find clubs that you really enjoy too, and may or may not be relevant to your career. So for me, I put my varsity track on my resume because it showed that, I could be good at time management on top of my studies. So you put that on your resume, and you really want to push that fact that even though it's not explicitly listed on your resume saying, good time management, be like, hey, look, I was in school and I was doing this at the same time. It's hard to juggle sometimes, but I managed to come through with it. The trading club was relevant to, the industry I want to get into. So that kind of nicely line up, but it doesn't always have to. When you're involved, you're constantly in contact with people, you're working in teams, and those are all transferable skills that can pass on to, in the real world, in the working setting.
Awesome. So you also said that you were involved in on-campus recruitment, that you were following those postings.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a question here from a student, and they'd like to know what advice you have for students who are trying to make the most out of the on-campus recruitment.
So in the finance industry, in finance industry, there's a big networking culture. So what I did when I was a student, I didn't really know anyone in this industry at the time. So what I did is I went to my prof and asked, hey, do you know anyone from our program in previous years that is working in this industry? And it just so turned out there was a few, and they were able to kind of link me up with them. So they were able to give me, tips and tricks and in terms of resume and application. And then if you can, make a good impression with those people, then they may further introduce you to other people. So that's what I did in terms of networking. For a lot of my friends are in the public sector, and it seems like that isn't, the networking culture isn't as big in that industry. So I guess it's really depends on the industry that you are in. But yeah, if anyone is interested in getting into finance or banking, networking seems huge. And I think the earlier you start, the better, because when January, February comes around, everybody is networking and people are busy. They may have to decline your coffee date. So the earlier you start, the more time you can get from them, and hopefully that will work in your advantage.
Excellent advice. And so you've mentioned reaching out to your department and asking if they have any alumni that they can connect you with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great advice, and for any students or alumni, recent alumni who are out there, I'm just going to say, you can always try out McMaster e-visors as well. That didn't exist when you were completing your degree.
Yeah, so that's a great resource for our current students to use. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So, you've even got a recommendation to use it. Okay, so we have some other questions here as well. One of the things our students would like to know is how your degree relates to kind of your career path, both in terms of subject area and in terms of those transferable skills.
Okay. So I will put out right now, in terms of stuff that I learned in coursework, I don't really use in my current job. What I really try to sell my degree is, I did an undergrad and my MA in economics. So it's more of more of a number heavier side in terms of social science degrees. And I really try to push that in my interviews and on my resume. So, for everyone who's watching this and who are in grad school, obviously you've done something right to get there. So really what you want to push for that is, the fact that you're able to get into grad school means that, you're a quick learner, you're able to learn things and be able to apply and do well in courses. And that's one of the most, I guess, broadly applicable thing you can say about a graduate degree. And I think employees value that because it shows, that people can learn quickly and you'll be able to do well. And you're given a task, you're able to do well. I guess, people maybe think economics and banking, it's, closely related. But, in terms of how much you will use that in-course knowledge on the job, it's actually very little. You'd be surprised how little it's actually applicable. It's really, all the soft skills and all the stuff that you can transition to your job that's actually useful.
Okay, you're totally psychic. That was amazing, Kevin. And yeah, I mean, it depends on what path you go into as to how much your subject area might play into your field. But the soft skills that you mentioned are completely important. And that's actually the subject of our next question from one of our viewers. So someone has written in, how does someone practice those emotional intelligence skills or soft skills that can really make a difference in a job interview? So how do you practice those?
As a student, I really recommend getting involved in extracurriculars and getting involved in clubs into things that you're really interested in. And when you're in clubs, you're constantly interacting with people. You're time managing because you're doing that on top of your coursework. I was lucky in the sense that, that I was able to do a lot of things and kind of juggle things at the same time while working part-time. And I found opportunities that really interested me. So when I have to do that outside of a coursework, for me, it was an escape. It didn't seem like a extra responsibility that was on my plate. It was something that I enjoy. I had a great group of people around me that had similar interests. I made a lot of great friends through that way as well. And, to people, it's a network that I built that I still stay in touch with it today. So yeah, for you to really work on that emotional skill, it's not really something that you have to go to workshop and do. You just go out and do something that you're interested in outside of class time, and you can build that over time.
Cool. We're always trying to tell people to get out of the classroom and go and apply what you've learned or build new skills and expand your network. So I love hearing it from an alum who's actually managed to reap the benefits of being involved outside the classroom. So one of the other things that our viewers are wondering about, analyst jobs are very, very popular. I don't know whether it's the job title, but it seems like everyone wants to be an analyst. So could you walk us through a bit about your role and kind of what's involved in that path?
Okay, so I mean, like you said, analyst is a super broad title and it can mean so many different things. And really, it's just a title for an introductory job where you're analyzing data. I think it may not even be data sometimes. Sometimes it can be reporting. So my current role, I'll give you a bit of background on why my team was created. So in 2008, in the midst of financial crisis, TD, we have a trading floor out in London, UK. And we actually had a rogue trader who was caught by the local regulators, and TD received a huge fine. It was all over the news. So that's what really caused the inception of my team. Our team at the time was for governance and to make sure that the traders on the floor are following the rules. They're not taking excessive risk above the bank's risk appetite. And throughout the years, the team has grew and it had a bigger mandate. But that's really what caused the inception of my team. So my team specifically really is we analyze data on a monthly basis. So I'll run these data. I'll create reports for each trading desk, and the data will outline, I guess, we're trying to capture employee behavior that may lead to rogue trading.
That is so interesting. So you're trying to capture the data that's going to tell you that someone might go rogue?
That may predict, yeah. So we have certain metric that we use to try to track that. And if we have certain threshold for each metric, if a threshold is breached, then there will be escalation and there will be consequences.
Wow. Now, did you learn how to do all of that on the job, or did you need a specific skill set before you joined TD to be able to, because it sounds pretty complex. Cool, but complex.
No, I did learn everything on the job. And I guess I was lucky in a sense I had a very good manager as well, who was very patient. She was relatively young. So she was, very involved and very hands-on with the team. But yeah, and it wasn't anything that I learned through academic. It was all on the job. Okay.
If you had the time, now that you're on the other side and you are analyzing data and metrics, are there specific skills or software that you would suggest someone familiarize themselves with? So like for doing the data analysis and looking at the metrics, do you use a specific software package like R or anything else?
Yeah, totally. So for my job specifically, actually, it's everything is on Excel. And I can't emphasize how important Excel is in working in a bank. Almost every arm of the bank, doesn't matter if it's TD Securities, TD Insurance, TD Waterhouse, Excel is such a useful and powerful tool in finance. So, for students who looking to get into industry, highly recommend taking, courses in Excel if you can. Or even just, there's lots of resources actually on YouTube. I learned a lot of my Excel skills through YouTube. There's practice exercises that you can use. And if you can just take some time out of the day and learn that, that'll set you apart in recruiting.
Awesome. I think we have a follow-up question about Excel that's coming. But one of the things that I wanted to ask while I wait for that to come in, so what kinds of things, because we see Microsoft Office all the time on resumes, and usually that, just leads to a whole problem. But what kinds of things do you do with Excel other than just entering stuff into columns and tables? Okay.
So I guess I can name a few of the functions that I use on a regular basis. So if anyone's ever heard of VLOOKUP, that's your bread and butter for a lot of the things. It's not overly complex. It's actually relatively easy. But there's a few different ways that you can use it. And, if you just take a week and practice, it's very, very intuitive and you can get good at it quickly. But the thing is, a lot of people may not get exposed to it just simply because, the courses that you take, you just never had to use it. And you can't know what you don't know, right? The other is pivot table. So pivot table will help you kind of calculate, count data for you. It's also very useful when you have thousands of rows, hundreds of thousands of rows, and rather than having to clicking and trying to count each and every single cell, it'll do that for you.
Excellent. So if anyone is looking to learn some skills and advance your Excel skills, you have a couple of different examples of things you might want to pick up, whether you're doing it through a massive open online course, continuing education, lynda.com, which we have a subscription to through the university libraries. So thank you, Kevin, for clarifying on that. Because I know it's the type of thing that we take for granted, right? It's like, it's Excel. What's to get excited about? But apparently there are a lot of ways that business uses that. So really helpful thing to pick up. And I see we've got a number of questions that have come in. So taking them as they're here, someone has asked, do you use any tools or personal philosophies to manage your time since you're so busy and involved in so many things?
In terms of time management, I want to emphasize that it doesn't matter how busy you get, it's important to make time for yourself and do things that you personally enjoy outside of work. Otherwise, you will get burned out very quickly. You will get frustrated, And it's sometimes, it's when you're young and you're ambitious, it's easy to get a tunnel vision. You say, I'm going to dedicate my life to work and I'm going to be the superstar, which is great. It's great to be ambitious. It's great to want to do a good job, but it's really important to make time for yourself as well outside of work and, do things that you would enjoy to help you replenish for the next day or the next week, and really help you get you through the hurdles when you're having a bad day at work and you got something to look forward to at the end of the day. So that's one thing that I really have to push home, and it's easy to get lost.
It is easy to overwork. I know that sounds really trite, but with cell phones and everything else, it's really easy to just not let go at the end of the day. So I can appreciate that. Although I still marvel at all of the things that you've managed to accomplish, both in your time at Mac and as you've moved over to TD. We have another question.
Okay.
Where did you seek out help while you were at McMaster?
Help for what?
So taking advantage of workshops and resources available on campus for, I'm guessing by the look of this question, career support.
Okay. So when I was in school, there were a few different resources that I could use, and for those who don't know, Catherine used to be in the Career Center. What's the official name, Catherine? Sorry.
The Student Success Center.
Student Success Center. So I actually have met with Catherine a few times while I was in school, and she had critiqued my resume. Great resource, and I highly recommend everyone to go to that center to get a resume looked at. And if you're in a line of study where your work is directly related, you can always reach out to your profs. They're great resources. They know people often in the industry that can help you. And for those who want to get into finance and banking, you can always look on LinkedIn for people in this industry. You can kind of narrow it down to alumni networking. You can cold call, and you'd be surprised, how responsive people can be when you do put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sums it up.
So that's a great start to, being able to get your footing, knowing your resources that are both on campus and off campus with your personal network. It sounds like you've had a lot of people who've been very influential for you. You've spoken highly about your managers and supervisors. Would you say that's the case, Kevin?
I think I lucked out in the sense that I had very supportive managers. I have colleagues that may have different experiences in the past. So I think, if you're really willing to put in the time and keep a positive attitude, doesn't matter what they throw at you, it can go a long way. And, there are times where you seem like you're in a rut or no one is noticing what you're doing. But I always try to tell people, if you can keep pedaling when the time is hard, eventually someone will notice. That goes a long way to speak about you not only as an employee, but as a character. You can teach someone how to use Excel. You can teach someone finance, but you can't teach personality, and you can't teach attitude. And if you can bring that to the table, that's fantastic, and people will notice that.
You're absolutely right. They will notice that. There's actually a school of thought that says to hire for personality and train for skills, instead of the other way around, hiring for skills and then hoping the personality meshes. So you're right on track there. So one of the other questions that we've got coming in, so you've moved 4 times since joining me. So from customer service to credit analyst, and then to analyst 1 and analyst 2. A lot of people in your position making those first few moves would have left the organization. So can you talk a bit about how you've been growing your career inside?
For me, it was really establishing yourself, as an employee who, will go the distance for your manager. I mean, when there's a fantastic opportunity with this dream job in a different company, you move. It happens from time to time. But for me, the advantage of staying at TD over time is really kind of building my profile and establishing myself. And when you do good work, your reputation within the company start to get known, and then that really help you propel you forward. So for me, I never really I never needed incentive to stay at TD, because my manager has always treated me well, and they have always kind of pushed me forward and recognize, that this person works hard, and they can push you to the next thing that you want. Yeah, and I wouldn't say that there's one way or one path to get to where you want. You can stay at a company for a while, or you might have to move. But the advantages of being loyal to a company is that your reputation will stick around, and that will build over time. And when you move firms, then you kind of have to reestablish yourself again.
Good point. So you've talked about the benefits of remaining in the organization and covered them beautifully. At the same time, were there resources that helped you to be able to grow within? Because I know that for a lot of graduate students, that's a concern that they might have, is that they're not sure that, their employer would be able to, or interested in investing in them. So do you know that if TD happens to have, benefits or resources that you've been able to make use of?
Yeah, so at TD, we have like an annual performance review. So your manager will sit you down and, tell you, hey, Kevin, this is how you did this year. And it's an opportunity where you can kind of talk about, the things that you want to get more exposure to within the team, or, within TD as a firm. I think what's, worked for me is that always make what you want known. And I don't mean that in like a in your face and loud kind of way, but it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to let your manager know that, hey, eventually I will leave your team and I want to do something different. So really asking for what you want, and you make people know that what your ambitions are. And no one's going to blame you to have ambitions, but the fact that just make it known and be vocal about it, I think people will notice that.
Wow. I love the attitude, Kevin. This is awesome. It's completely exactly the direction that I think people want to go into, in terms of making sure that you're approaching it from the right perspective. I have a bit of a fun question.
Okay.
I think it's fun. What was the hardest thing about transitioning to a 9-to-5 work life?
What was the hardest thing? To transition from a 9-to-5 or to a 9-to-5?
To transition to a 9-to-5 work life.
I think that the most difficult thing is, having a very structured schedule. So, as a student, I'm very used to, on Wednesday I can sleep in, and on Tuesday I got an early morning, and Thursday is my gym at 1 p.m. You don't really have as much of that when you're working a full-time job. So it's really important to treasure that little time that you have to yourself. I guess the biggest thing is to really manage your time well, and explore the things that you have in this whichever city that you're in. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I get to work in Toronto, and there's tons of things going on, but there's a bit of something in every city for you to explore, and really just get out there and try new things, and really treasure that 3 or 4 hours you have in the afternoon is crucial. yeah, I would say that's the biggest adjustment.
Now, be honest with us as a follow-up. Do you find yourself working beyond 5 o'clock?
I do. I think, and I don't think that's uncommon in the industry, but I do work past 5 in instances. And I think a lot of people expect that coming into the industry, which is probably a good mindset to have. There are a lot of ambitious and very hardworking people, and where y'all colleagues, but at the same time you're competing as well. So there are some friendly competition, and you do what you have to do to be the best to be the best in your team.
Great. Okay, so we are in about the last 10 minutes, I think.
Okay.
And while we're sorting through some of the questions coming through, I would like to ask a few. So kind of not putting you on the spot so much, but getting your take as a young alum. So what advice would you have for someone who is considering, let's say that they're in a graduate program in social sciences, and they are considering a career in, working for banking in the financial sector? What advice would you have for them?
Okay. The first thing I want to say is that, depending on which degree or which department you're doing your graduate degree in, there is an option to take elective courses in the MBA program when I was doing my economics degree. So I actually took 2 courses from the degree MBA program that really helped me stand out from the rest of the econ grads to, show that, yes, Kevin have specific interest in banking and business. So if you're interested in that, I would really highly recommend you talking to your program director and see if that's an option for you. Second of all is develop your Excel skills. I can't stress that how important that is and how much that will help you, have something to talk about in your interview for your very first banking job. And just network. Don't be afraid to call people up on LinkedIn and just ask for a coffee. Make sure you do a bit of research, make sure you're prepared, make sure you know what you want, at least have a set of questions. But put yourself out there and just ask questions and learn as much as you can. Informational interview, I just want to mention, and most people probably already know this, but it's not an opportunity for you to ask for a job. It's an opportunity for you to really learn, and you want to show that, do a bit of research to show that you're genuinely interested. And if you have coursework or a project that you've done in the past that's relevant, it's okay to showcase that, print some stuff out, bring it with you to show that you're prepared. And finally, if things don't work out for you the first time around, that's okay. It's important to keep on pedaling and just keep going for what you want. And, if you're in a job that's not your dream job, that's okay too. Embrace that, learn as much as you can, and keep a positive attitude, because people will notice. And, if you keep on working towards where you want, eventually you'll get there.
Excellent advice. We have another question that's come in that follows up on what you were just saying about informational interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So our question is, do you have a mentor at work who helps you understand the work culture environment? And how would you recommend that students contact someone like that?
I don't have a set mentor per se, but I definitely utilize my current manager as a mentor. Your manager is always a great resource, and they're kind of like your prof, at school. You would go to prof for course content, for course knowledge, but you can also ask them for advice for job search. Very much like your manager, you can ask them for job specific advice, but they're also there at your disposal for career advice as well. And it's great to have a mentor. I know people that do have it, and they'll meet on a monthly basis and whatnot to talk. For those who are looking for a mentor, I would encourage you to do it. There's so many different ways that you can find a mentor. Yeah, I guess the short answer is, I utilize my current manager because she's sufficient. And she's great at that, so I didn't have to seek externally for extra mentor.
That's an awesome answer, and you've got it on video that you've just said that your current manager is awesome. So you can show this, and it's great. We'll get you some hot water there.
Brownie.
Should you ever find yourself in it.
That's right.
For anyone who is looking for a mentor, I would recommend eVisors as a great place to start. If you're looking beyond, start with your manager, and then keep exploring your network. When you see someone whose work you admire, talk to them, ask them for coffee, take them to lunch.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you see someone that who someday you aspire to be like, or with someone that you think that would in a position that you would be like in someday, they're great role models for as a mentor, and they can provide you insights that other people might not have.
Cool. So in our last few minutes here, I just want to kind of look at some of the things that you've been really emphasizing. So you've really emphasized the importance of those soft skills and how critical they've been for your career. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always learn the job on the job. The important thing is just stay hungry, keep a positive attitude, and really embrace whatever situation you are in, because there's always a silver lining.
Fair enough. Okay. So you've got soft skills, your attitude, the networking skills that you've put into place.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that, and aside from, of course, taking care of yourself and making sure that you give yourself time to recharge your batteries so that you're good to go, for those students who might be graduating in June, and who, either are scrambling out there to get their Excel skills up, or if they're looking at other ways, is there anything that you can think of that we haven't covered here that you would recommend they do, kind of at this stage?
Really figure out what you want to do, and create a plan to get there. And what I mean by that is really researching the industry and really know what the industry is looking for. And there's so many different ways that you can find out that information, whether it's through networking, whether it's through an alumni, whether it's just reading online. There's lots of resources that McMaster have that you could utilize. But knowing what you want is very important. And applying to jobs blindly without really having an objective, you may notice that responses may not be as great as you like. So having a target and having a goal and knowing what you want can really make a difference.
You know what, that is excellent advice, and I don't think we can top that. So hopefully our students will be taking your advice, Kevin, your very good advice, and developing out their game plan and looking at the resources. And we do have resources on our website to help students with their job searching and their planning. I think it looks like we have one final question in.
Mm-hmm.
Last question coming in, and I will give this one. So you've had a number of interviews. We didn't cover this, so this will be our last question. You had a number of interviews for your different positions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any interview advice that you would pass along?
So the way I approach interviews, that I always want to come prepared anticipate the question they might ask. So doing research on the role itself, or better yet, speaking with someone who is in the role currently, can really provide you a lot of information that sets you apart when you're actually on the interview. So what I've done in the past is whenever I have an interview for a specific role, I would look on LinkedIn and I would search for people that are in that role or in the industry who do something that's very close to the role. And I would just ask them out for coffee, ask about what they do, ask about what their day-to-day is like. Because the job posting a lot of time can be kind of vague and, high level. And doesn't really give you a detailed description of what you'll be doing. So actually speaking to someone prior to the interview, man, it was huge help. And I can't stress enough how many times they tell me to get through, at least the first round of interview.
Excellent. I can't believe how absolutely brilliant all of this advice has been, Kevin. And so, I was just taking some notes there. And if I were to sum up what you've been sharing with us, is the importance of, doing your research and knowing your employer, what you're looking for, the career path that you're interested in, and networking, so your informational interviews as well as mentoring both on and off the job. Be prepared, be open, skills, and, not look at that first role as that it has to be everything, and to move within. Would that be kind of, I realize it's a very short synopsis, but what do you think? Is that about fair?
No, I think that's very fair, Catherine. Doesn't matter where you start. You may have a fast start, you may have a slow start, but it doesn't really matter because, your career is a long race. And if you stay persistent, you will come on top.
I can't think of a better way to end the Hangout. You've just done an excellent job for us. So, Kevin, I thank you so much for joining us for our very first career hangout for the School of Graduate Studies. We appreciate it very much. For everyone else, thank you for your patience as well for finding us. And we will be back tomorrow with another broadcast for our Hangout week. And we look forward to seeing you here. All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you so much. Okay, so everyone take care. We will see you soon.